In the year 1787, Empress Catherine the Great of Russia embarked on a highly publicized journey to inspect her newly conquered lands in Crimea. Accompanying her was her chief minister, Grigory Potemkin. Potemkin faced a monumental problem. The territory was barren, ravaged by war, and deeply impoverished. If the empress saw the grim reality, his political career would be instantly ruined. So, Potemkin engineered one of the most audacious deceptions in human history. Along the banks of the Dnieper River, where the empress's fleet would pass, he erected massive, painted wooden facades of prosperous, bustling villages. He hired thousands of local peasants, dressed them in vibrant, artificial festive clothing, and instructed them to sing, dance, and cheer as the royal barge floated by. The moment the empress's ship rounded the river bend, out of sight, the actors collapsed in exhaustion. The livestock was driven away, and the wooden walls were hastily dismantled, only to be rushed further down the river to be reassembled overnight. Catherine the Great returned to her palace, deeply moved by the thriving, idyllic civilization she believed she had witnessed. More than 2 centuries have passed since Potemkin's grand deception. But if you look closely at the device resting in the palm of your hand, you will realize that the Potemkin village never actually disappeared. It was simply miniaturized. It was optimized, digitized, and forced into our pockets. Today, platforms like Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok serve as the riverbanks of our modern existence. Across these digital waterways, we erect our own painted wooden facades. We call them personas. We call them personal brands. We curate our aesthetics, script our vulnerabilities, and filter our flaws, showcasing a continuous, uninterrupted festival of professional triumph, emotional stability, and self-actualized bliss. We live in a packaging civilization, an era where the surface has entirely swallowed the substance. We are so obsessed with curating the perfect representation of our lives that we have forgotten how to actually live them. We have traded the messy, unpredictable truth of human existence for a frictionless, marketable caricature. And this leaves us with a terrifying existential question. In a world where everyone is performing, is authenticity dead? Or worse, have we become so trapped inside our own facades that we can no longer tell where the actor ends and the human being begins? Today, we aren't going to look at the painted walls. We are going to step behind the wood, turn off the cameras, and examine why the modern cult of the persona is causing our souls to suffocate. To understand why maintaining an online persona or a perfect professional image feels so utterly exhausting, we have to look past popular self-help tropes about digital detoxes. The exhaustion you feel isn't just screen fatigue. It is a profound psychological and cognitive crisis. When you participate in the packaging civilization, you are forcing your brain to operate under a structural distortion that defies human evolution. Let us pull back the curtain on the 2 devastating psychological mechanisms that trap us within our own facades. In the late 20th century, the French philosopher Jean Baudrillard introduced a revolutionary concept known as simulacra and simulation. Baudrillard argued that modern consumer society has replaced all reality and meaning with symbols and signs. He asserted that we no longer consume products or experience relationships for what they actually are. We consume them for what they signify. In the age of the persona, this has led to a psychological phenomenon we can call the humiliation of the flesh. Think about how you construct an online persona. You take a random, chaotic week of your life, isolate the single best moment, the promotion, the aesthetic cafe visit, the perfectly articulated insight, apply a filter, edit the text, and broadcast it to the world. This digital avatar is a simulacrum. It is an idealized, friction-free copy of you that doesn't actually exist. Here is the cognitive trap. Your brain's reticular activating system, RAS, the neural gatekeeper that filters your perception of reality, cannot easily distinguish between your digital avatar and your physical self. When your digital persona receives hundreds of likes and validation, your brain internalizes that standard as the baseline metric for who you should be. But reality is messy. Your physical self gets tired. You get bloated. You face financial anxiety, creative blocks, and moments of profound loneliness. When your flawed, heavy physical reality inevitably clashes with the weightless perfection of your digital simulacrum, a severe state of cognitive dissonance is triggered. Your brain begins to view your natural human flaws not as normal aspects of existence, but as existential failures. Authenticity didn't die because we became malicious liars. It died because our real physical lives were thoroughly humiliated by the impossible standards of our digital ghosts. We became ashamed of being human. This psychological strain is compounded by a structural crisis in how we navigate social space. In the 1950s, sociologist Irving Goffman pioneered the dramaturgical perspective of human interaction. Goffman argued that social life is a theatrical performance divided into two distinct zones, the front stage and the backstage. The front stage is where you put on your costume, adopt your professional persona, and perform for an audience. It is the office, the formal dinner, the networking event. It requires high cognitive energy, emotional regulation, and constant self-monitoring. The backstage, however, is your sanctuary. It is where you step out of character, drop the mask, express raw emotion, make mistakes, and recuperate. The backstage is where the soul heals. The structural tragedy of the digital age is that modern technology has completely obliterated the backstage. Because of smartphones, enterprise messaging apps like Slack, and omnipresent social networks, you are permanently wired into the world. You are never truly off camera. When you receive a work message at 9 p.m., your front stage mask is violently forced back onto your face. When you scroll through social media in bed, you are subconsciously modulating your thoughts to fit the digital audience. Your brain is trapped in a psychological version of the panopticon, a prison design where inmates never know when they are being watched, forcing them to constantly police their own behavior. This constant state of performance keeps your cortisol and adrenaline levels permanently elevated. Your brain never receives the biological signal that it is safe to drop the act. You aren't just tired from working, you are spiritually paralyzed because you have been performing under a blinding spotlight for 10 years without a single intermission. To understand the true cost of this packaging civilization, we must step away from philosophical theories and look directly into the mirror of our everyday routines. This hyper-curated existence is not a victimless crime. It systematically hollows out our most valuable real-world relationships and executive capacities. Let us examine two precise modern scenarios where the cult of the persona silently extracts its toll. Consider first The professional zombie. Meet Thomas. Thomas is a senior corporate consultant who prides himself on his flawless corporate mask. In the office, Thomas is a master of the front stage performance. He is always high energy, always speaks in polished corporate frameworks, never shows vulnerability, and remains completely unfazed by toxic workplace dynamics. He is the ultimate reliable asset. But this performance is not free. It requires an astronomical amount of glucose and metabolic energy from his prefrontal cortex to suppress his genuine frustration, fear, and fatigue for 10 hours a day. When Thomas finally closes his laptop and drives home, his cognitive battery is completely dead. He has experienced what psychologists call ego depletion. When he steps through his front door to face his wife and children, the people who actually deserve his authentic self, he has nothing left to give. He becomes emotionally numb, irritable, and profoundly detached. The tragedy of the packaging civilization is that we spend our highest quality energy performing for an audience of strangers who do not care about us and hand the hollow, exhausted scraps of our souls to the people we claim to love. Consider second, the aesthetic kidnapping. Meet Chloe. Chloe has built a highly successful online persona centered around the concepts of mindfulness, wellness, and intentional living. Her digital feed is a masterpiece of calm colors, curated reading lists, and weekend getaways. But watch what happens to Chloe's actual brain when she enters a beautiful space. Because her identity is entirely hostage to her digital simulacrum, her first instinct when she sees a sunset or receives a plate of food is not to experience it, but to extract it. Her brain immediately translates a raw, beautiful human experience into a commercial asset for her persona. She experiences what psychologists call spectatoring. She stops living her life from the inside out and starts viewing her life from the outside in. She becomes a ghost, haunting her own existence. When she receives 100 notifications of praise, she experiences a fleeting spike of dopamine. But the second the screen goes black, the silence of her room feels 3 times heavier. She has successfully commodified her life, but in the process, she has lost the capacity to feel it. How do we break out of this digital panopticon? How do we reclaim our right to be real in a world that pays us to perform? The solution is not to become a cynical Luddite, throw your phone into the ocean, or quit your job. In a highly interconnected global economy, your professional persona is a legitimate tool for economic survival. The goal is not to destroy the mask. The goal is to break your identification with the mask. You must stop confusing the costume you wear for the skin you live in. To fix the crisis exposed in Part 2, the complete erasure of your backstage, you cannot rely on vague concepts like mindful scrolling. You must use architectural, physical boundaries to force a stage closure. You must implement the Sunset Restoration Protocol. Choose a fixed, unnegotiable 60-minute window every single evening, ideally between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. During this hour, you will execute a total digital blackout. Your smartphone is placed in a separate room inside a closed drawer. Your laptop is shut. During this hour, you are strictly prohibited from engaging in any behavior that can be measured, monetized, or turned into a social symbol. You cannot read a book to post about it on Goodreads. You cannot work out to log it on an app. Instead, you must do something entirely low stakes and completely unmarketable. Take a long hot bath. Listen to music without looking at a screen. Doodle on a scrap piece of paper, or have a completely unscripted conversation with your partner. By creating this physical black hole in your day, you are sending a powerful biological signal to your overactivated prefrontal cortex. You are telling your brain, the audience has left the theater. The lights are down. The performance is over. You are finally safe to step backstage. This single hour of guaranteed safety is the biological baseline required to lower your chronic cortisol levels and restore your emotional reserve, to cure the cognitive dissonance caused by Baudrillard's hyperreality, where your real life feels humiliated by your perfect online persona. You must systematically introduce controlled amounts of reality back into your public front stage. In psychology, there is a famous concept known as the pratfall effect. Research shows that highly competent individuals who occasionally display a minor, relatable flaw or mistake are perceived as significantly more likable, trustworthy, and attractive than those who maintain an aura of unblemished perfection. Perfection evokes suspicion. Vulnerability evokes connection. To leverage this, you must deploy the front stage backstage realignment formula in your professional and social communications. The next time you share a milestone, a success, or a polished insight online or in a meeting, you must force your brain to actively attach a raw piece of uncreated reality to it. For example, if you post about a major professional victory at work, append a short, honest disclaimer at the bottom. Extremely proud of the team for launching this project today, but for the sake of absolute transparency, behind this polished slide deck lies 3 weeks of profound imposter syndrome, an alarming reliance on cold brew coffee, and at least 2 moments where I accidentally joined a client call while wearing my pajama pants. When you deliberately link your front stage triumphs to your backstage realities, you achieve something revolutionary. You shatter the illusion of the flawless simulacrum. You stop giving your brain an impossible standard to live up to. You neutralize the humiliation of the flesh by showing the world that your success is driven by a real, flawed human being, not a corporate robot. You transform from a cold, threatening symbol into a warm, accessible human leader. The transition out of a packaging civilization does not require you to tear down the modern world. It requires you to change your location within it. Your persona, your professional mask, your digital profile, these are not inherently evil things. They are simply the garments we wear to navigate the harsh winter of a competitive, hyper-technological society. They are tools for survival. But a traveler who refuses to take off their heavy winter coat when they sit by a warm fireplace will eventually pass out from heat stroke. The ultimate freedom is not a life without masks. The ultimate freedom is the sovereign capacity to take the mask off when the work is done. It is the wisdom to realize that your market value is not your human value. You are not the number of views on your video. You are not the title on your resume. And you are certainly not the elegant, flawless shadow you cast onto the digital wall of the internet. Stop treating your actual living, breathing life as a rough draft for an online post. Stop apologizing for your fatigue, your confusion, and your beautiful, chaotic humanity. The next time you feel the suffocating pressure to look perfect, to say the right corporate phrase, or to package your soul for public consumption, take a deep breath. Step back from the screen Let the painted walls of the Potemkin village fall away. Walk out of the theatre. Wash the grease paint from your face. Look into the mirror. And finally, allow yourself to be seen.